the heat. And today we're kind of dealing with a double whammy in the sense that we've got the extreme heat. We also have some severe thunderstorms that we're keeping an eye out for potential impacts for our area. So we want to bring in meteorologist Bekah Birdsall to talk about what folks need to know as we go on throughout the day. And I had seen not only this heat, but I saw our chief meteorologist, Brad, tweeting about the fact that we've never had so much fuel as we are seeing today. So this is a serious thing for folks to keep an eye on.
There is so much instability out there with those high humidity levels. That's also what's contributing to those heat index values between 105 to 109. Now, we've actually peaked with those heat index values 109 here in Charlotte, and that breaks the record from yesterday. Yesterday we reached 105 just for this year, and we will continue to see the intense heat across the Charlotte area. But what we are also tracking now is a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings. Now, we've had a couple issued further east and further west to our area, but we're looking at one in particular that was issued over towards Avery and Burke County, and this was for golf ball sized hail and 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. The National Weather Service has also tagged this as having basically stationary movement, meaning it's not going anywhere, and it's dumping a pretty intense amount of rainfall across portions of Linville Falls, as well as Table Rock, Ashford, North Cove, Spruce Pine, Ingalls, and Little Switzerland. So you also see golf balls sized hail. You can expect hail damage to roofs, windows, and vehicles. So this is a heads up to Avery County. If you haven't found shelter just yet, you'll want to do so as the storm continues to pack a punch. Now, I also want to get to some of the wind gusts that have been reported out of this, 70 miles per hour. And when you combine that with these intense rainfall rates, this could down trees, down power lines, and also cause some structural damage to buildings as well, which is again the reason why we are weather alert. There's also a ton of lightning strikes with this severe thunderstorm warning, up to around 55 just across the county. Again, it is not moving. So this is what we have right now. Severe thunderstorm warning goes until 3:30 today. It's under that considerable tag again for the potential of golf ball sized hail and 70-mile-per-hour winds. This could easily cause lots of damage to the area. Now, the risk for large to damaging wind gusts is going to be the greatest concern going in the next couple of hours across the Charlotte area as well. And when we say briefly large hail, potentially an inch in diameter or larger, that's mainly up to a quarter. But what you see is golf ball size hail, that is 1 and 3 inches, and definitely enough to do some damage to cars, roofs, windows, things like that. So as we head further through this afternoon, I think we'll start to see a little bit more coverage in the Charlotte area. So far, it's been quiet. We've just been dealing with that intense heat, and that's because there's a cap in the atmosphere across the Charlotte area. The National Weather Service actually had a radio sound up towards an airplane, and they indicated that there was a cap in the atmosphere that basically puts a lid on thunderstorm development. So that is why it hasn't been as active in the Charlotte area, whereas it's been very active over towards Avery and Burke County. But I do expect that to change again as we head further on in the afternoon and evening hours. Greatest time point, I would say, between about 4 to 8 o'clock is when we'll anticipate the potential for those strong to severe thunderstorms. More of an isolated threat as we head into Thursday afternoon and evening, with the main concern also going to be those strong to damaging wind gusts upwards of between 50 to 60 miles per hour. So for today, winds the greatest concern, the potential for hail, but also localized flooding. You'll notice that I mentioned that storm over towards Avery and Burke is near stationary, meaning it's not moving and it's dumping a large amount of rainfall in a short amount of time. So there's also going to be the potential for some localized flooding as well. You can see pretty much the entire area encompassed under a low threat for excessive rainfall. It's just going to be a little bit more of an isolated risk. Also going to have the potential for what are called wet microbursts. And a microburst is basically just an intense downdraft that comes down from a thunderstorm, can often do more damage than a tornado just because it's more widespread. But wet microbursts also contain lots of rainfall with it. So not only is it producing really large wind gusts, but it's also bringing some intense rainfall down with it. So those are going to be the main concerns with storms for today. It is also very hot out there. Look at that storm field that we have over the next couple of hours, and that moderate to high range will start to go down later on tonight, which will eventually dwindle down those rain chances by the time we reach early Thursday morning. Heat advisories are up all across the area until 8 p.m. tonight. Another one was actually just issued for tomorrow. That's when the heat index is expected to be 105 to 109. And if you look at the current temperatures outside right now, we're up to about 100 in Chirac, 98 in Charlotte. But of course, when you factor in all that moisture and humidity, feels like 106 in Charlotte, feels like 109 Monroe over towards Rock Hill. So today is going to be a day to keep an eye on the radar, but also take care of yourself. Take plenty of breaks if you are outside, and definitely a day to be weather alert.
So, I mean, as far as, let's talk lightning, and I feel like I want to talk about this because yesterday we had breaking for folks here in the evening on Live Impact News that a report of more than a dozen people who had been struck by lightning while they were outdoors. I believe they were either swimming or they were out by a body of water. But what can you tell folks as far as when is it serious enough that they need to be going inside? What are the signs, and how seriously should we be taking these warnings?
Yeah, I think especially if you have any outdoor activities, especially water-related activities, definitely keep an eye on the sky and that radar. Know the forecast before you go outdoors, and any signs of a developing thunderstorm, even if there hasn't been any lightning or thunder just yet, just make sure you keep an eye on that radar for any potential lightning strikes. I will say with the one that happened yesterday in Lake Murray, I believe it was pretty clear skies out there. There was really no signs, no warning signs for them, which was very unfortunate. But lightning can strike up to 10 miles away from a thunderstorm. So that's when it becomes a little bit risky, especially if you do have any outdoor activities. Just keep an eye on the sky. Any potential signs of a thunderstorm, head indoors and check that radar app.
Now, for folks who are, wanting to know when is this heat going to relent?
Sure.
When will we finally get, I'm not going to say we're going to get a reprieve because it is summertime, but what are you seeing?
By the time we get into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, those heat index values will start to go down just a little bit to the upper 90s. High temperatures will also go down into the lower 90s, so we're not going to be talking about heat advisories this weekend. We're also going to be going more to that typical summertime-like pattern, especially from Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Highs will go down into the lower 90s, which is just a few degrees above the normal high for this time of year. But there is also going to be lots of moisture and lots of humidity out there, meaning hit or miss thunderstorms. Typical summertime-like weather we see here in the Carolinas, but not expecting the triple-digit heat index values that we have been seeing essentially from Monday through today.
And, for the thunderstorm potentials that we're watching for the Charlotte Metro, getting into, obviously, the evening commute, that's possibly going to be a concern. Do you think folks, regardless of whether this is a severe event, will there, at the very least, probably be rain for folks to contend with?
Absolutely, yeah. Rain, lightning, that's going to be the typical summertime-like thunderstorms that we see. I'd say the different setup here is the potential to add damaging wind gusts to that, as well as the intense rainfall that can be treacherous on the roadways and the lightning. There will be that risk for really strong wind gusts that absolutely could affect your commute, as well as the potential for some hail. We know that even a little amount of rain impacts that commute, so if you can leave early, would do so. If you can't, just keep an eye on the traffic map and definitely the radar to see where the strongest storms are set up.
Okay. Anything else you want to leave us with? I know that the Weather Impact team will be keeping us up to date thoroughly here on WCNC Plus throughout the afternoon and the evening, but anything you want folks to be mindful of?
Yeah, I'd say the Charlotte area really has not seen any thunderstorms just yet. It's just intensely hot. Take care of yourself. Drink lots of water and stay indoors if you can, and definitely keep an eye on the sky later on this afternoon and evening.
Yeah, and if I could, mention as a animal lover, watch the pet pads.
Yes.
We've been very mindful of our pups. They like to go out frequently, so we're taking them out even if it's midday, but we'll try to walk them on the grass, keep them off of the sidewalks. I know that can hurt their paws.
Any shaded walks. I had to do one earlier this morning around 9 o'clock, and it was very hot, but my dog is one of the dogs that has to have a walk.
Yeah.
Rain or shine, no matter what what condition it is, or else he will not be a happy dog. So if you have any active dogs that really want to be outdoors, love to play outside, sniff mats, and any sort of mental stimulation, I've been doing a lot of that recently because it's just too hot.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually, because we were talking about that in our household. When you can't have them outdoors for long periods of time, physically exhausting themselves, you'd be surprised how far a little bit of mental stimulation goes with like the puzzle balls, maybe even lick mats, like you mentioned.
Kongs, all of the above. Yes.
Very good. Very good advice. All right, Bekah, thank you so much.